Yeah, thank you very much, Ken. Well, this is an exciting class of car in Australia because, as you've just explained, it is the stepping stone in this country to Formula One, and it is our premier open wheel class.
Oh, that's right. I mean, it is. If you want to go open wheeler racing, if that's where your future lies, you really have to start driving these cars. And Mark Scaife has successfully won the title last year. He's on pole for this race in a brand new Lola. As you can see, he's on pole position with a 130.17. The first three very close, actually. Mark Larkin with a 130.31 and Simon Kane with a 130.92. So those three should actually bring some very close racing. Milne, Barnacle, Kaplan, Ward, Abrahams and Weeks bring up the top 12. Galloway, Rundle, Watson, Cramp, Clifford and Don Chovio, 18th position. Davidson, Blee, Heinrichs, Duhlmann, Drewer and Rees. Mike Drewer, of course, a member of the Grand Prix office here and just loves his racing.
Unfortunately, too, for Mark Poole in the South Australian Shrike car, that's the car that was developed and built by the TAFE College over here, has had to withdraw at the last moment. That's a shame because over the last few years it's been a pretty competitive motor car. Yeah,
they built several of them and they acquitted themselves very, very well indeed.
And Mark Scaife sitting on pole from Victoria. He's in a Lola T91. That's the newest car. It's a brand new car to Australia. There the distance, laps 15 in this race. And it's a very, very nice little motor car. Even though it's a year old, it's certainly the most modern car. And I've got to say that Simon Kane has put in a great performance. Simon Kane is not a full-time driver these days. He drifts in and out of the sport.
No, considering the amount of time he's been out of the cockpit, to come back and do that time around here is a great effort.
Kane in car number 5. So we get the green flag from the rear of the grid. Larkham sitting beside Scaife. This is going to be interesting. Nothing in this in practice. Scaife, we thought, would really bolt out and establish a time, but he didn't do that. They've really hounded him around. Green light. Racing now. Getting the power down. Scaife gets bogged down. Larkham certainly makes a great jump off the line, and so did Simon Kane. He really came up in behind Scaife. There they are. Larkham leading Scaife and Kane right off the backside of Mark Scaife.
Yeah, Scaife had too many revs on. He built up too many revs, dropped the clutch and literally just sat there wheel spinning.
Now we'd expect these three to get a fairly good buffer on the rest of the field pretty quickly. Larkham getting the car all over the place. Look at Scaife as he darts around and dances around, lining him up now. Oh, almost a touch there as Larkham did a great job to keep that together.
Yeah, but Simon Kane did a great job. He just really read that well. Here's a good replay. Simon Kane read that really well and took full advantage of it.
This is live out of Markham's car.
Yeah, the tyres on these cars are quite hard, and that's not really a bad thing because as long as they've all got the same tyres, it means that there's no problems about qualifying or the tyres going off. But what it does mean is for the first couple of laps, being hard, it takes a while for them to get some heat in them, and this is what causes all this nonsense. Okay, well, you can see he's come through there. He's got on the loud pedal, got up on the... Oh, very lucky indeed not to have taken Mark out with him.
Bit of hard-stopping stuff there. Brand new car. This is from his car now. Watch Larkham. He gets the thing sideways. We might get a shot here as... No, Scaife goes past. But that's how he saw it anyway, the angle of the car. So Scaife now darting all over, trying to get a run out of here. Comes up the inside under brakes and takes him too. So he gets past Larkham now, and he's chasing Simon Kane side by side. Let's have a look at the horsepower race here. As Scaife gets it down, and will he hold him out? Yes, he will. So Mark Scaife back into second place, in behind Simon Kane.
Well, these three are actually producing a good race, and I was frightened there that Larkham and Kane might hold each other up a little while and allow Simon Kane to get away. But it's still taking a while to get some heat in these tyres. They're still wheel spinning and sliding.
Well, of course, Mark Scaife, as we spoke about earlier while we were doing the Group 8 car race that you were driving in and he was co-commentating on, he's just come back from Europe where he's had 2 runs in a Formula 3000 over there. Not the way he planned to go, but he said he learned a heck of a lot about what he's got to do next year and raise a lot of money here in Australia to go and do that and be competitive.
Yeah, also what he's got to do is part of racing in Europe is to, you know that if you go into the first corner, there's going to be about 8 to 10 screaming Europeans come on the inside with their brakes all locked up, and invariably they take each other off, and unfortunately Mark was one of them.
So Simon Kane would be delighted to be leading this because, as we said, he was a very competitive driver, been drifting in and out of it. So as we watch 1, 2 and 3 battling here around the streets of Adelaide, we'll take a break back shortly. Stay with us, Australia.
And that's why everybody wants to lead to the action.
to have your company wherever you're watching us right around Australia. You're looking at the Formula Brabhams on the streets of Adelaide. 3 of 15 gone. Scaife, Kane, Larkham, the big three, and we'll show you how that all changed around during that break. Here's a replay of where Mark Scaife took the lead. Now, this was a big move on the outside. You can see now he gets a nice run out of here, puts the power down nicely. Now, watch as they come around behind the pit area leading into the corner onto the main straight. Mark Scaife gets on the outside now, hammers the car down, and just really powers around. Alan, that was a big move.
Yeah, I think Simon Kane missed a gear, or had trouble getting a gear, because Mark seemed to make an enormous distance on him all of a sudden, and really that is not a place where you'd normally pass on the outside of that corner. I believe that Simon might have had a bit of a gear change problem there.
Well, Simon Kane's doing a terrific job because the cars aren't anywhere near as current as the Mark Scaife car. We're talking about a Lola that was built in '91. The Reynard of Larkham's is a 90 model car, and that Route RT21, I mean, that's had a lot of racing miles underneath it now.
It's an old car, and I am very impressed indeed with the way Simon's going, because he hasn't spent a great deal of time in the cockpit this year, and it is an old car, so he's acquitting himself really well indeed.
Mark Scaife, of course, took out his second Gold Star Championship here in Australia this year in this class of car. He won it last year, won it again this year. Of course, 2 times Bathurst winner now, back-to-back wins there. There's not much he hasn't won now in this country.
No, and at his age, it's excellent, but I think really now he has to come to it. Here we go. We've got a good cockpit shot now of Larkham going down the straight. He had a lock-up before, and it was quite a bit of smoke coming off those front tyres, but he doesn't seem to have too much vibration through his hands, so he obviously hasn't flat-spotted them as badly as I thought he might have done. Now, what I was saying before is that Mark now really has to make a decision on whether he wants to go to Europe and get into motor racing on a professional basis, because he has won the Australian Touring Car Championship, he's won Bathurst, he's won the Formula Brabham Championship. Does he stay in Australia and have a nice comfortable life, or does he have a go to Europe and try and make it over there?
Well, Jackie Stewart standing right beside me. Jackie, I know you run a team over in Europe for Formula 3000, and I mentioned some money to you today. We were talking about around $2 million Australian, perhaps more. They were the figures that Fred Gibson gave me yesterday, and you thought you probably wouldn't need that much money, but you certainly need the time in the car.
Yes, I think money-wise in Europe it takes around about 600 to 700,000 pounds to run a top-line Formula 3000 car. That's what you need. It's a 2-car team normally. Mark came over and did the last 2 races of the European Championship this year at Nagaro and at Magny-Cours. He jumped into Alan McNish's car, which is a pretty good car, and had been doing quite well so far in the last races of the year. But of course he was getting into a formula which is highly competitive, with a bunch of drivers who had been racing in it all season, and it's very difficult for anybody to come over. But I think, as Alan Jones says, he's got to go to Europe if he wants to further his career. He'll have to take a knock or 2 on the basis of his pride, because he's going to be running against the very best drivers from all around the world, because Formula 3000 is the step before Formula 1. And the best drivers from Brazil, from Britain, from France, from Germany, from Austria, and from Italy are all head-to-head there, the top talent.
I ask you, and I know you haven't had a chance to look at him a lot in the car, but what do you think about his chances? What do you think of his ability and what you've seen?
Well, he's driven well. I was a bit disappointed he was quite as nervous at the beginning of the race. He was all over the road to begin with. He needed just to calm himself down. His mind management needed to get into gear. He was just too anxious to get out in front too early, I thought.
Okay, you're looking at Mark Scaife. We thank Jackie Stewart, the great man, for his comments. Take a break, back shortly with the Formula Brabham. 7 of 15 down in the Formula Brabham race here around the streets of Adelaide. It's Scaife, Kane, Larkham, the top 3 for you. And really, Mark Scaife, since having that little unsteady start, it seemed to be pretty twitchy, the car, in the early parts. He settled himself down now and really got into a rhythm. And Alan, this is a pretty little car. I mean, we say it's a 91 model, but it's the carbon fibre model of this car, which of course they had the alloy body cars before. This is quite a sophisticated little machine.
Well, they've done the right thing. They had what I consider to be a bit of a silly rule before, where the car had to have more 80 or 90% of aluminium, and they weren't allowing carbon fibre, and there was really no need for that. They were a bit scared that the carbon fibre element might boost the cost up. but actually I think quite the contrary, because there's nothing older than a 1 or 2 year old racing car in Europe, and they are now carbon fibre. It's giving these guys a chance to go over there and get a superseded car, what is over there, 1 year old, and bring it back here and have a very good, safe, sophisticated car.
Well, I've got to say that Fred Gibson Motorsport, with the Winfield backing, they do a fabulous job. The way this car has turned out, when you see it stripped of its bodywork, I mean, the detail work is just sensational.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fred really approaches his motorsport like that. I mean, the Nissans are beautifully prepared, and that's carried all the way through here on the Lola. I mean, it really is, to go to Fred's setup, you would think you're in Europe, because he just does things very, very professionally.
And Simon Kane, I've been really impressed with Simon Kane, because he won that driver to Europe chance, and he had a go in Europe. Really didn't get a lot of support over there. He struggled at the time he was there, but he did impress some people with some pretty gutsy drives.
He did, and I mean, he really does do it on a shoestring. I know for a fact that he's desperately looking for some sponsorship, and his father is his greatest supporter, obviously, and his father puts, you know, just about all of his spare money into Simon, and it's great to see Simon driving as well as he is today, because I'm sure his father, and indeed everybody, is very happy to see it.
Yeah, well, you're right about his own money. His father's poured a lot of his personal money into this car, and I mean, that can only go so far. And I guess in this country, we've got to get educated to get behind our youngsters in a class of car that might not be the most popular, but certainly the most necessary.
Yeah, well, indeed, if we want to see Australians over in Europe progressing in open wheel of formulas, we have to give them some support here, and we have to have the hindsight or the ability to be able to pick 1 or 2 or 3 guys out, give them some backing, and give them a chance to get overseas and hopefully get into Formula 1.
Mark Larkham in much the same position. You see, he gets the go-ahead there as he whips past one little Formula 2 cars. But Larkham doing a great job. He's picked up a bit of sponsorship for this race, again in an older model car, and with not the opportunities to sort of go racing as much as a guy like Mark Scaife, who can really go to Europe. He's driving in Japan at different times. He's driving the Nissan GTR. He's on the track all the time. So Kane and Larkham doing a fabulous job here today.
Larkham, I think, has got some problems with his brake bias, or he's got the brake bias out. He seems to be locking his brakes very easily. The car seems to be quite twitchy under brake. So, you know, whether he's got a glazed pad or whether he hasn't got that brake bias correct, I don't know.
That's who you're looking at now, car 2, Mark Larkham. And Larkham, well, he's such a nice guy, and he's struggled along to try and do the best he can to get a really good package together to get competitive. And he's the one that's been pushing Mark Scaife for the last 2 years. He really gave him a hurry up last season too.
He did. I think Mark enjoyed having that professional backing behind him and having the car beautifully set up for him at most of the races. And it showed, because he was able to consistently get into the lead, and he carried out the championship quite easily.
Well, the race organisers have reduced this race to 12 laps because of earlier delays in the program. They're running a pretty tight ship here. It's obvious that Mark Scaife is going to go on to win. 11 of 12 down now. So we're not sort of looking at really close dicing at the moment. So I think wisely they've taken 3 laps off this race so that the program could be brought back to time. We had a few bingles in the celebrity race, also the touring car race, and that cost us quite a bit of track time. So that's not detracting from the guys on the racetrack. They can only do what they're doing, and Mark Scaife is doing what he does so well, leading.
Well, I think 12 or 15, I think we'd probably find that the order... Oh, dearie me. I tell you what, that was more luck than good judgment.
Big lose there, and a little bit of luck too. But as I said, Mark Scaife can't do any more than what he's doing. He's out leading, coming through the traffic, carving his way through. I sat on that corner the other day with Jimmy Richards and watched these little cars come through there off the main straight through the chicane. Unbelievably quick through there.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're quite nimble, but obviously if you sat there and watched the F1s go through, Des.
Oh, well, I mean, anything compared to Formula 1 on this track, I mean, it all looks slow, but they're quite amazing how they come through there, and the touring cars are pretty exciting through there too. But these cars, they've got all the characteristics of a Formula 1. They've got that flat floor plan. I mean, basically, they are a miniature model and are not quite sophisticated, or as sophisticated.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, yeah, they haven't got carbon fibre brakes, and they haven't got active suspension and all the rest of it, but really you don't need that to make good close racing, and that's really with the paramount importance, I believe. But as I said before, I think 12 or 15 laps, I think the result would be the same. I think you'd see Mark and Simon, and then Larkham in third place. But I tell you what, Simon's still hanging on in there. He wouldn't want to have a little lose or anything, because Simon would be through.
So Mark Scaife, car number 1, doing a really good job in the Lola T9150. Simon Kane, as we've said, giving him plenty of accolades today. A guy that steps in and out of the race car on a shoestring budget. Has done a great job here too. He's kept in touch the best he could. Hung on there for quite some time, and Mark Larkham will come in third as Mark Scaife takes the checkered flag now in this, the Formula Brabham race. So the Australian Gold Star winner winning here today. Simon Kane comes in second. Third will be Mark Larkham in quite a demonstration from young Mark Scaife. Okay, that's the scene here in the Formula Brabhams. We'll be back shortly to Adelaide as we see one of them getting out of trouble pretty quickly.